We believe that racism is manufactured, marketed, and promoted for 10 main reasons. These reasons are profit, competition, hierarchy, division, insecurity, manipulation of our human instincts, control perceived threat, cowardly, uneducated and misinformed, and confirmation bias. And since these reasons are man-made and man-created, it might not be as real and important as you might have accepted it to be. What this video is trying to share is other possible ways of countering, identifying, and looking at the many parts of it, knowing what to ignore and understanding when to respond to it. It might sound like an insult to say racism isn't real. Many black and brown people who have walked down the street and had people clutching their purses, switching to the other side, grabbing their kids, locking their car doors, or all of a sudden grabbing the hand of the person they are walking with when they see them would absolutely disagree with that statement. But there was no other way to say it for the purpose of this video, and as repulsive and terrible as those experiences are when they have happened. Hopefully, some of those experiences might become less necessary to pay attention to by the time you finish watching this video. All of those behaviors might unfortunately change because it is built in the fabric of societies we live in, and it has been continuously reinforced by the media. How you respond to it needs to change to minimize or eliminate the impact it has on you as a black or brown individual in the society we live in. It's no secret that there are false stereotypes and profiling that every black or brown person is subjected to that will never go away, because many racist or racial biases have developed into beliefs and stigmas targeted at them for centuries. And the fact that they are mostly false, inaccurate, and made up, and degrading is not the reason things will never change. The reasons things won't change is because they exist for these 10 primary reasons. The 10 reasons are profit, competition, hierarchy, division, insecurity, manipulation of our human instincts, control perceived threat, cowardly, uneducated and misinformed, and confirmation bias. 1. Profitability. When blacks and browns are labeled as violent, dangerous, and criminals, while the media consistently and intentionally amplifies anything involving black and brown interacting with law enforcement, being arrested or doing something illegal, it reinforces that narrative and bias, even though data and facts have continuously disproved that blacks commit more crime than whites. Many people believe it, and there is immediate benefit of the doubt. They must have done it. They obviously are dangerous, otherwise, why did the police stop them, blah blah. When there are lots of stories of false arrests, incarceration, even deaths of innocent black and brown people in the hands of police. The profit part comes in many ways from this specific narrative, but one example is from shows that talk about these types of things online, because they get followers and views from advertisers. 2. Competition. There is competition between ethnic groups for resources that exist in our societies. And when I say resources, I mean things like jobs, food, housing, tits, and all these things can only be procured when you have money. Some ethnic groups understand that the competition is real because they originate from cultures that have billions of people fighting for limited resources. So they migrate to Western cultures with that mindset of domination for survival. While some groups are still dealing with internal strife, trivial issues, and non-consequential topics, some groups have perfected the methodology of supremacy and domination, because they understand that it is powerful and influential to put people that look like themselves in certain roles in government, businesses, and industries because they can influence them. 3. Hierarchy. A lot of people practice and believe in racism because it is beneficial to them in gaining some leverage or advantage. Most often within a group, there is a hierarchy and competition also, so members of the group do not usually cohabitate or work together, except when they see it as a means to secure an advantage or power. This in turn is used to reinforce the position they hold or help them attain the position they want to have in society. But you can't blame anyone that puts survival as a priority. And because it is a competition for survival in their minds, there seem to be no holds barred, so everything goes. And based on that mindset and some tactics that most people might consider filthy, inhumane, and unfair, these groups are winning the competition at this point. Some of the tactics or methods being used in this competition are those that were learned in the countries most of the people in these groups came from, because those were the same methods and tactics used to subdue and control them in their own countries of origin. So it is baffling, surprising with a little bit of irony. The irony being that you find more ethnic, lower economic class immigrants and minorities engaging in acts that can be considered racially motivated. Often, they are the people who had no opportunities or where they were born, but managed to make it to the Western countries and are doing better economically. but for some reason they believe that they have some type of superiority, or otherwise known as supremacy, to blacks and brown people that were there long before they arrived. One would think that they would absolutely reject any acts or behaviors that would associate them with bigotry or racism. But humans can be funny and most of all clueless. Another ironic and comical thing to note is that often, many people who exhibit racial biases or bigoted behavior have black or brown lineages. They'd often deny it, but there is undeniable and documented proof that it is so. So are these cases of the so-called self-hate, or as mentioned earlier, supremacy? Who really knows? It's a subject that most people can't talk about because it is convoluted in its definition, understanding, and even interpretation most times. 4. Division. It's used to make people that might actually have more things in common afraid of one another. 5. Insecurity. It's used to project insecure feelings. 6. Manipulation. It's the simplest and most manipulative way to exploit and use human beings' natural instinct to survive. 7. Control perceived threats. It's a simple-minded approach to subdue, subjugate, or stifle growth from any group perceived as threatening. 8. Cowardly. It's often a cowardly reaction by weak-minded and scared people. 9. Uneducated and misinformed. It works quickly within uneducated groups because misinformation is often the delivery method. 10. Confirmation bias. It's a way for some people to validate and confirm their biases about someone or groups of people. These factors make it easy for. So who is a racist? A person who believes in racism is the doctrine that one's racial group is superior, or that a particular group is inferior to their own. Racism is a form of bigotry according to another dictionary. So who is a bigot? A person who is intolerant or hateful toward people whose race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation is different from their own. So one is a belief system, and the other is actions by the person or persons who practice bigotry. As humans, it is not unnatural for many of us to gravitate towards what is familiar and what feels comfortable to us, for survival and comfort. And to be honest, most of us have feelings of superiority in some things or some parts of our lives. You might feel superior to your friend in basketball, or she might feel superior to you in statistics. That's probably not racism. Because feelings and beliefs are often not based on data or facts. They are opinions and often not real. But if you did something to your friend to have an advantage when you played basketball with her, she would have the right to address and respond. Since that act would be measurable, because it was harmful, and it gave you an upper hand in the basketball game. And since it is likely that racism and bigotry will never become a thing of the past in our world, is it unreasonable to focus more on bigotry, since actions are easier to spot, measure, and respond to, unlike feelings or beliefs? And secondly, there have been many documented cases of racists, sometimes changing their beliefs or opinions. Unlike bigots who have unchangeable, unreasonably strong, often false beliefs or opinions about people of a certain race or background. The concept and practice of racism, and to a larger extent bigotry, is embedded into the fabric of our societies, and not only is it unreasonable, but it is incredibly unfortunate. So how can black and brown people mitigate its effects, and not let it stop them from reaching amazing heights, recognition, and achievements? In Part 2, we will look at that in detail.